In education, it feels like we're just drowning in frameworks and buzzwords, right? But what does the research actually say works? Welcome back to Simplified Teaching, where we demystify pedagogy. Today, we're going to cut right through all that noise and get to the hard evidence behind three of the biggest, most influential teaching design models out there. So let's just ask the big question right up front. What really drives student learning? Is it that grand architectural plan you spend your summer creating? Is it that awesome, messy, student-led exploration? Or is it those split-second tactical decisions you have to make 1,000 times a day? Well, today we're putting three of the most powerful frameworks to the test to see what the evidence actually tells us. All right, here's our game plan. We're going to look at understanding by design, then the 5E model, and then high-impact strategies. After that, we'll throw them into the ring for what we're calling the data war, find our big takeaway, and wrap up with some things you can do this week. Let's dive in. First up, we've got understanding by design, or UbD as you probably know it. Now for this one, I want you to think of a specific role, the architect. Yeah, this framework is all about creating that solid, detailed blueprint before you even think about laying a single brick. So the absolute core of UbD is this really powerful mental flip called backward design. It's a game changer. Instead of thinking, okay, what cool activity am I going to do tomorrow? You completely reverse it. You start at the finish line. You ask yourself, months from now, when all is said and done, what is the one essential thing I need my students to walk away with? And then everything, literally every single thing you plan, flows backward from that one powerful question. And this whole process is just brilliantly logical. It breaks down into 3 stages. Stage 1, you nail down your desired results, those big, meaty, essential understandings. Stage 2, and this is the really critical part, you figure out what counts as evidence that your students actually got it. This means you're designing your final test or project before you even think about your first lesson. I know, right? And only then, once you've done all that, do you get to stage 3, where you plan the day-to-day learning experiences. Okay, so let's get into the analysis. UbD isn't really a quantitative study, it's a big conceptual framework. The core finding is simple but powerful. Planning with a clear purpose in mind is way more effective than just planning a bunch of activities. But, and this is a big but, here's the catch. Its biggest strength is also its biggest weakness. It's a really deep theoretical framework, which means doing it right takes a ton of discipline and, let's be honest, a lot of time. Still, its influence on how we all think about curriculum, absolutely massive. It's a clear 5 out of 5 for impact. All right, let's shift gears to our second framework. It's time to meet the explorer. This is the 5E model, and you can already tell it's going to be different. It's way less about the architect's blueprint and way more about guiding students on an actual journey of discovery. The whole 5E model is built on this really profound idea called constructivism. And what that really means is simple. We learn best not when someone tells us stuff, but when we build our own understanding from our own experiences. Think about it. It's the difference between me handing you a map versus you actually going out and exploring the territory for yourself. The teacher's goal here is just to create the path for that exploration. So this journey, it unfolds in 5 really distinct stages. First, you engage them. You've got to hook their curiosity with something amazing. Then you let them explore. You let them get their hands dirty with the concept. And this is key. Only after they've had a chance to mess around and explore does the teacher step in to help them explain what they've discovered. After that, they elaborate by applying that new knowledge to new situations. And finally, we evaluate to see what stuck. So, does this actually work? Well, the evidence is pretty compelling. Research shows that following this inquiry sequence can lead to huge, and I mean huge gains. One study saw a 40% jump in correct exam answers in biology, a 40% increase. But, and you gotta listen to this part, the research is super clear. This is not a one-day lesson plan. You only unlock its real power over a multi-week sequence. If you try to cram this into a single class period, the effect just plummets. So because it's so powerful, but also has that specific time constraint, we're giving it a very strong 4 out of 5 for impact. And that brings us to our final contender, a personal favorite of mine, high-impact teaching strategies, or HITS. So if UbD is our architect and the 5E model is our explorer, then HITS is the tactician. This is all about those specific, data-proven moves that help you win the battle for learning, not over a year, but in the moment, every single day. Yeah, so unlike the other two, HITS isn't some grand, overarching framework. It's much more like a toolkit, a collection of very specific, evidence-backed moves. These strategies come from these giant studies called meta-analyses, and each one has a proven effect size. Now, an effect size is basically just a number that tells you how much of a punch that strategy packs, how much it boosts student learning compared to just, business as usual. And trust me, these numbers are absolutely staggering. So just to give you some perspective, in education research, an effect size of 0.40, that's considered the benchmark for a full year of academic growth, one whole year. Now look at these numbers. Metacognitive strategies, reciprocal teaching, giving good feedback, they are all way up there, almost double what you'd expect in a typical year's growth. We're not talking about small tweaks here. These are absolute powerhouse tactics. So what's the core finding after decades of this research? It's simple and it's incredibly empowering. What teachers choose to do, specific actions, have a statistically massive impact on learning. But, and this is the crucial warning label, these effect sizes are averages. They're not magic spells. A powerful tool used at the wrong time or in the wrong way is totally useless. Success here depends 100% on your professional judgment, knowing when to use a strategy and how to use it well. For its sheer evidence-based power and practicality, this one's a no-brainer, 5 out of 5. Okay, so we have the architect with the master plan, we have the explorer on the journey of discovery, and we have the tactician with the in-the-moment moves. It sounds like they're in conflict, right? So how on earth do they fit together? It's time for our critical comparison. Let's see where the research really collides. And honestly, this table just makes everything click into place. Just look at the planning horizon row. UbD, our architect, is playing the long game. We're talking entire units, the whole semester. The 5E model, the explorer, that's more of a midterm thing, a multi-day sequence. And HITS, the tactician, that's the short game. We're talking this lesson, this activity, right now. You see, they're not 3 different ways of doing the same job. They're designed for completely different jobs. But you know what's really interesting? Despite all those differences, they totally agree on the big stuff. Seriously, all 3 of them are obsessed with having clear learning goals. They all want us to move beyond just, lecturing and transmitting facts. And every single one of them sees the teacher as the key intentional designer of the whole learning experience. There's way more common ground here than you might have guessed. So what's the solution to this supposed data war? Well, the answer is, there is no war. The conflicts we think we see aren't really conflicts at all. They're just differences in scale and purpose. Think about it this way. UbD is the blueprint for the house. The 5E model is the step-by-step guide for building the foundation. And HITS, those are the hammers, the saws, the drills you use along the way. You would never ask if a hammer is better than a blueprint, right? It's a ridiculous question. You need both. They aren't competing, they're complementary. And that right there brings us to the big simplified teaching takeaway. The whole point of this was never to pick a winner. The real goal is to stop seeing these as competing options and start seeing them as part of one powerful synthesis. So here's how it all comes together. First, the master teacher is an architect. They have that long-term vision. They use backward design to build a coherent, purposeful map, not just for one lesson, but for the entire unit, maybe even for the whole school year. Okay, but within that grand architectural plan, the master teacher is also an explorer. They get that learning isn't just a straight line from A to B. So they design these learning sequences that actually feel like journeys, using something like the 5E model to spark that curiosity and let students build their own understanding. And finally, on a day-to-day, minute-by-minute basis, the master teacher is a tactician. They've got that toolkit of evidence-based strategies ready to go, and they have the wisdom to know exactly which tool to pull out at just the right moment to get the job done. So you see, it's not about being an architect or an explorer or a tactician. The master teacher is all 3. Okay, theory is great, but let's make this super practical. How can you actually put this synthesis into practice, like tomorrow? Here is your plan for this week. Here's a simple challenge. This week, just try on all 3 hats. First, be the architect. Take one lesson on your schedule and plan it backwards from the end goal. That's it. Second, be the explorer. When you start your next topic, launch it with a big, compelling why question that really gets students curious. And third, be the tactician. Consciously pick just one high-impact strategy, like worked examples, and look for the perfect moment to use it in class. The real takeaway here is that effective teaching isn't about choosing one framework. It's about skillfully blending the roles of planner, guide, and strategist. So the final question isn't which one is best, it's how will you be all 3? To make sure you keep getting these research-driven breakdowns, go ahead and like this video and hit subscribe to Simplified Teaching right now. The next analysis drops next week and you won't want to miss it. Oh, and if you want to support our work, all the relevant resources and links are in the description below. See you next week.